Hey guys, I'm Jared, and today we're talking about what's new in board gaming as of April 14th, 2023. I'll be covering the latest news, announcements, most played games, hot new Kickstarters, and crowdfunded games, and more related to board gaming for the past 2 weeks. At the end, I'll also be sharing what's going on behind the scenes with my YouTube channel, Meeple Mentor. So stick around, we've got a lot to cover. Leave me a like and comment on what kinds of updates you want to hear more about. To make sure you don't miss my news updates, new video tutorials, and our podcast episodes, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and your preferred streaming platform. Let's get started with some crowdfunding. Terrorscape is an immersive horror board game for 2 to 4 players. It's one versus many in this game with classic horror movie vibes. Use hidden movement as the means for your escape, or enjoy your hunt as the killer. This 30 to 45 minute game provides great table presence with a large 3D mansion. It's intended for ages 14 and up, and you can back it on Kickstarter until May 21st. If you're looking for deception and deduction in a world beyond ours, look no further than Passengers, available on Kickstarter. Soul guides work together to attempt to guide as many souls across the veil as possible, while demon smugglers work together in secret to try to get the demons to the Afterlands. Your first card drawn determines your personal faction. It's for 4 to 8 players, ages 12 and up, and plays in about 45 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until April 19th. Terminus is a game of subway building and resource management for 2 to 5 players. Your transit company has been hired to construct subway tunnels and stops connecting the districts of the city. With a rondel action loop, marketplace economy, and resource management, this game provides roughly 25 minutes of play for ages 14 and up. It's funding on Kickstarter until April 25th. White Death, the long-awaited sequel to the medieval fantasy zombicide, has arrived to Kickstarter, bringing a biting cold with it. In addition to the new environment, zombies, and survivors, this new installment also brings updated rules and new thrilling mechanics that will send a chill up your spine. It is intended for 1 to 6 players ages 14 and up, and plays in an hour. You can back it on Kickstarter until April 26th. Designed for novice and diehard racing fans, Lights Out Racing brings racing to you. The first card across the finish line after completing a predetermined number of laps wins in this board game inspired by Formula One racing. Pit stops, track position, and track limit warnings add more to the mix. Lights Out Racing is intended for 2 to 6 players ages 13 and up, and plays for 40 minutes to an hour. It's funding on Kickstarter until May 17th. Getting briefly into the industry news, Super Mario Bros., the new movie, set a 5-day, $204.6 million box office record, making it the #1 5-day opening in history. On March 31st, Inside the Box announced that all of its assets, including stock and intellectual property rights to games, including Subterra and Alba, have been acquired by fellow independent UK board game publisher Naylor Games. Naylor acknowledged that backers of Subterra 2, Alba, Cryptex, and Aquanauts had been left rightfully frustrated and angry by their unfulfilled Kickstarter pledges, promising to try to make this as right as possible, while setting realistic expectations about what the possible solution could be. Klaus Tuber, the designer of Catan, many gamers' introduction into varied game mechanics, has passed away at the age of 70. The news of his passing comes after a bout with a brief illness. He will be very much missed. Next, let's look at newly announced games and expansions coming to retail. Fantasy Flight Games will release another expansion for Marvel Champions the card game into retail on August 18th. Next Evolution adds Cable and Domino as 2 playable heroes with pre-constructed decks. The expansion supports 1 to 4 players with the core box, is for ages 14 and up, and plays in an hour. Arquise, announced by Ankama Board Games, is a cooperative campaign game set in ancient Egyptian ruins. The overall goal of the campaign is to defeat enemies, unearth hidden knowledge, and reveal the secrets of the ruins. Arquise is for 1 to 5 players ages 10 and up, and plays in an hour. Hachette Board Games will publish Sky Team, a cooperative, limited communication game where players take on the roles of pilot and co-pilot with the goal of landing their plane onto the land strips of different airports. This involves dice assignment, and there is a danger that you could crash into another plane. Sky Team is intended for 2 players ages 12 and up and plays in 20 minutes. It will be available in retail stores in Q4. Hachette will also release Zhangguo, the First Empire, a new strategy board game in which players are vying for a place of honor in the Emperor's terracotta army and must win his approval. They must manage the 6 cards at their disposal each round to support their case and obtain the Emperor's approval for their actions. It's for 1 to 4 players ages 14 and up and plays in an hour to 120 minutes. It's set to hit retail in Q4 as well. Marvel Dagger sees players teaming up as iconic superheroes from throughout Marvel comic book history, featuring 20 different heroes. The co-op board game has players traveling across the world to carry out missions, defeat enemies, and stop the villains' plans before eventually facing off against them in a final showdown. It is to be released June 30th. Pathfinder Studios has announced its first board game in more than a decade. Elemental Stones is a competitive tile placement board game where 2 to 4 players take turns creating specific patterns out of hexagonal pieces. It's set to release in October of this year and can be pre-ordered on the publisher's website. Brains and Brawn is the next expansion for Unmatched by Marvel, adding Spider-Man, She-Hulk, and Doctor Strange to the mix. In Brains and Brawn, players will be able to take control of one of these 3 superheroes in a battle to the death, utilizing their unique abilities and decks to move across the board, perform attacks on their opponents, and defend themselves against damage. It supports up to 3 players and takes around 20 to 40 minutes to play. In Evacuation, life on our planet is being burned away thanks to increasingly intense sunlight, so everyone is trying to move all the people and factories in their territories from the old planet to a new one, and they have only 4 rounds in which to do so. Actions have values, resource management is imperative, and variants make the game an interesting play. It's for 1 to 4 players and plays in 60 to 150 minutes. It's set to publish just ahead of Essen Spiel in October. In August 2023, Feuerland Spiel and Capstone Games will release Age of Innovation, in which you upgrade your buildings to gain valuable resources such as tools, scholars, money, and power. Build schools to advance in different sciences, and collect books which you can use to make innovations. Build your palace to gain a powerful new ability, or build workshops, guilds, and universities to complete your culture. Imperial Miners is a game for 1 to 5 players from Tim Armstrong, set in the Imperial Settlers universe that Portal Games will release in Q3. Players create their own mines by playing cards into their personal tableau, with players taking turns simultaneously. They start from the surface and develop downward. In Trepanation, players take the role of fraudulent doctors in this era who are performing medical shows for the gullible public and vying to become the most famous medical performer. In Q2 this year, German publisher DLP Games will release Trepanation, a design by Robin David, for 2 to 5 players. Ares has locked in a June 2023 release date for Ensemble, a cooperative game for 2 to 10 players, in which all players must vote without communicating on one of the cards on display that they think best matches a card in the middle of the table, unlocking the next level if they all choose similarly. The goal of the game is to win level 9, and once the game is won for the first time, the first scenario deck of 3 is unlocked, with new rules and cards being available for future games. New publisher Mind's Vision, founded by Brazilian expats Otávio and Renata Lessa, will release a new version of Gunter Burkhardt and Wolfgang A. Lerman's Potato Man, using the same artwork and graphic design as in the 2021 edition from Brazilian publisher Geeks and Orcs. The hook of this game is that when you play a card in a trick, it must be a different color than each card already played. Mind's Vision expects to have this game available in May 2023. Funko is releasing Indiana Jones Sands of Adventure, a 2 to 4 player cooperative game due out on June 18th, in which you play cards to rescue the Ark of the Covenant by upgrading tiles, attacking enemies, and racing against time, specifically a sand timer that slowly fills with gems, then flips. Steve Jackson Games will release Munchkin Cows, a mini expansion for the Munchkin card game, into retail May 3rd. This 15 card set adds more monsters and treasures to any Munchkin base game. It features an array of comical cow cards with art by Ian McEntee. The cards included in this set originally appeared in Munchkin Unicorns and Friends, and this is not a standalone game. Let's talk for a bit about what's happening on the Meeple Mentor YouTube channel. First, did you know that we have a Patreon page? It's available for fans of the podcast and channel to pledge as a Patreon and support us here. There's various pledge levels for small monthly support that helps grow the channel's content. You can get access to new content early, you'll get to vote on new game tutorials that come out on the channel, and more. Head to Patreon at patreon.com/MeepleMentor. We're doing a giveaway on the channel right now through the end of April. You can win a new copy of Distilled from Paverson Games, courtesy of the Meeple Mentor Channel. Check out the announcement video and click the King Sumo giveaway link to gain entries. You'll need to be subscribed to the channel to win and have a US shipping address. Speaking of Distilled, I added an unboxing video of the expansion, Africa and the Middle East, to the channel, as well as Holly and I's review of the game. You can watch both right now. I posted a lot of new unboxing videos to the channel as well, including The Finest Fish, Life of a Chameleon, Final Girl, Munchkin South Park, Rear Window, and Vivid Memories. The most recent tutorial video was for Ishtar, Gardens of Babylon, an underrated gem from Bruno Cathala. Up next is a full tutorial for Distilled, so stay tuned and subscribed. Finally, the last off-the-shelf recommendation video I posted was for the engine-building dice game Bad Company. There's a tutorial for it on the channel as well, so I highly recommend the game. What game tutorial do you want to see me cover on the channel? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for tuning in to today's news update. I appreciate your support. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.